issu du Parlement ou en rapport avec lui, mais soit complètement extérieur à lui, et donc juridictionnel nécessairement. Il faut qu'il y ait une séparation des pouvoirs entre le contrôleur et le contrôlé, quoi. C'est aussi simple que ça. Donc voilà, c'était juste pour ajouter ça.
Yeah, but the French case is extremely interesting because it's the origin of a variety of important. You're right, the Conseil d'État has been established by Napoleon and at the origin had the function to protect the administration vis-à-vis the judiciary.
Mais a toujours cette fonction.
Well, still, it's also true that in the second half of the 19th century, the Conseil d'État and still now is able to protect some fundamental rights.
Okay.
So there is a fascinating evolution from, institutions are like heats. You cannot control them. You want that your children are nice or do something, and they do something different. So the Conseil d'État was created to, and France is fantastic because it's the same story with the Conseil Constitutionnel. The Conseil Constitutionnel was created to protect the executive power vis-à-vis the parliament. Okay? And now, the French still don't want to call the Conseil Constitutionnel a cour constitutionnelle, but de facto it is a court.
Belgium it took 10 years.
Yeah, you see, right. So, in my opinion, in the French legal system, the history shows this transformation of institution, but okay.
So I've got an additional point to that, and that is, Blanco, and the way you look at that from the English point of view, because in English context you still have so many limitations on tort liability of public authorities. So when I looked at that from a comparative perspective, not knowing anything about the French responsibility administrative, I look at this as a kind of progressive development which then established a wider ranging liability than you today have in the United Kingdom, in the common law. But of course the other perspective is that Blanco was in the Tribunal de Conflit, and it was about it being for the Conseil d'État and not for the ordinary courts, I expect, and the whole way they have looked at other concepts, Fort Lourdes. They have established distinctions which have made it more difficult to establish tort liability than perhaps under general civil law distinguished. But nonetheless, the comparative perspective in England is, of course, that it is still a much wider liability than you have under the common law. And in the common law, of course, John Bell wrote an article 20 years ago, and he starts off by Dicey. Dicey says that there's no administrative law because one should have the full rights. Yes, but then you have absolute immunity through procedural devices, and then afterwards you have used the tort law concept of negligence and of duty of care to limit and basically limit and reduce liability. So it's much less liability even today. So that was also a very dynamic perspective. It's not only the national institutions, but how does it look seen from another jurisdiction? And then of course Conseil d'État they have left Fort Lourdes in the regulatory areas. They are developing, so it becomes, I expect, closer and closer to the general civil tort liability, which again in the domestic context brings out your point, I expect. But this comparison across borders, everything can change meaning,
Look, it is 4 o'clock, and we have been working well. I learned a lot. I want from my heart to thank you, and I can come to pick you up at the hotel